2018 was definitely an improvement over the first year of Nintendo Switch when it comes to third party. We saw games like Wolfenstein 2 really come onto their own and have Panic Button become one of the developers that shines when it comes to developing for Nintendo Switch. On top of that title that we actually really loved and we said it was one of the best games on Switch this year, they had other ports including Warframe, which is now out on Nintendo Switch. It's free to play. You can definitely go get your hands on it and see if you enjoy that experience. All that to say, third party is kind of coming out of its shell with Nintendo Switch, and maybe the third year here with 2019, it's going to be the real coming out party for third party. With that said, let's talk about third parties in 2019 a little bit. We have, just to name a few, we have Mortal Kombat 11, we have Doom Eternal, we have Final Fantasy, a lot of Final Fantasy games. We have Resident Evil, some Resident Evil games, including Resident Evil 4, one of my favorite games of all time. We have Dragon Quest 11S, we have Bloodstained, The Ritual of the Night. If you enjoyed the first Bloodstained, hopefully this one does turn out to be somewhere near as good. We also have Tales of Vesperia Definitive Edition. We have Team Sonic Racing, and there's a lot more. I know it's kind of weird that I mentioned Team Sonic Racing there, but it's just to show that there are a lot of third parties, a lot of big publishers that are now on board with Nintendo Switch. It was by design that I named so many of these. We have Capcom representatives, we have Sega representatives, we have Bethesda representatives, we have Warner Brothers representatives in these games that I just mentioned, and it's really good to see so many of these companies finally come on board with what Nintendo Switch is. Reggie has said in the past that the reason Red Dead isn't on Switch was because they were developing Red Dead before we announced the Switch. They didn't know the Switch was a thing. Okay, Reggie, sure, let's go ahead and believe you, even though I'm sure the power of the Switch or the lack of power on the Nintendo Switch has something to do with it. But still, let's just play along for a bit. People know what the Switch is now. The Switch came out the gates pretty strong. So, by Reggie's logic there, we should hope to see more and more publishers, developers, and overall big companies finally get on board with the Nintendo Switch. Could 2019 finally be the year we get an Assassin's Creed game on Switch? What about Call of Duty, Madden? Some big franchises that are continuously on the top sellers whenever the current yearly iteration is out there. Well, yearly for Madden and Call of Duty at least. I hope Assassin's Creed is about to take a break here, but if Assassin's Creed does take a break, maybe it's time you give the Switch some love and bring over one of the older Assassin's Creed games. We had rumors that a collection of some kind for Assassin's Creed was coming. We kind of hope it's the Ezio collection, because what else would it be really unless they have something completely different. But is it time for Ubisoft to really come into the mix some more? They did something phenomenal with Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle and the DLC. That is one of my favorite gaming experiences on Nintendo Switch. It was such a perfect mashup of that Nintendo charm with gameplay that we don't really see from these type of characters. It's like, you know, baby's first XCOM, and it was a really fun story. It was a very fun world. Even Rabbid Peach ended up being way cooler than anyone thought there was any right to be with that character. We even saw Nintendo this year do something that we don't see very often, and that is give a third-party game a bundle of their own with Diablo 3 The Eternal Collection. I don't know why that game specifically got the bundle, but the fact that it did speaks volumes. Diablo 3 continues to sell very well on Nintendo Switch. It's constantly one of the best sellers, at least so far, and throughout the holiday. I did make note of that. I told Zach, like, hey, can you believe how well Diablo 3 is selling on Nintendo Switch? So clearly, games that existed before can have a second life on Switch. At the end of the day, more games on Switch is what we want. And unfortunately, some of the games we mentioned here a little while ago, a good portion of them are ports, and they're a little bit older. But Mortal Kombat 11 and Doom Eternal, those two in particular, those are going to be shining examples of how things should be done on the Switch going forward. It seems like those are happening day and date. And yes, things can change, so I don't want to necessarily like etch them in stone or whatever, but as far as we know, those are both day and date. Dragon Quest 11S was something that was announced when the Switch was first happening, and then it's like, hey, here it is on other platforms, PlayStation, have your fun, and Switch, you'll get it eventually. And I do believe we're gonna get it eventually, sure, but at some point, it becomes too little too late. I'm kind of worried that that's what happened with Dark Souls, another big third-party representative for this year on Nintendo Switch. That kind of came and went. the excitement for it got lost amongst all the delays that happened. And, you know, make no mistake, there were some delays and we weren't really kept informed over what was happening with that port. When the port came out, it was still really good. Taking Dark Souls with you on the go is still fantastic, but again, maybe just a little too late. With Mortal Kombat 11 and Doom Eternal, Bethesda and Warner Brothers have the opportunity to make sure that the Switch player base is there from day one. Mortal Kombat 11, I'm assuming, is going to have a very big online portion, and having a strong player base there from day one and not staggering the release where every other platform gets it right away and then Switch players have to wait 6 months, a year, doesn't matter. No one's going to be really interested because by then you could already get the game cheaper on other platforms. Switch owners, we're patient, but we're not that patient. So day and date is super important. Another thing to really be hopeful for next year is the fact that this time last year, you know, right when year 2 was going to start, we didn't know that things like Dragon Ball FighterZ were going to come to Nintendo Switch. So hopefully we have some surprises on the horizon as far as third party. There are major omissions as far as these big companies go. I'm assuming 2K19, NBA 2K19 at least, is gonna come back. 2K20, whatever they end up calling it. WWE skipped out on the year, and I personally don't really have any care for those games, but I know that there is a player base there, even though the port was really bad. So maybe they take a year off, come back, and represent really strong on there. I'd like to see more sports games. NBA Live, Madden, EA doesn't really have too much representation. EA has a lot of partnerships, and it'd be really cool to see them do something with Nintendo. We got Faye and other like smaller stuff that I guess comes from EA, but nothing really notable. I think Madden is the big one that Zach and I want to see because we both enjoy and play Madden, but it's unfortunate that we don't get to take a career with us or anything like that. Zach really wants to make the Detroit Lions good somehow, so maybe Madden is his only hope. Who knows? And one of the sad realities here is that if it doesn't happen in this year of Nintendo Switch for third parties in a big way, it's probably never gonna happen. But let's also make sure to point out that third party on Switch is way better than it was ever on Wii U, but I don't know if better than Wii U is the goal that we're trying to hit. Of course, we had a ton of like shovelware and a lot of games that really weren't that great, but we also did get a lot of really cool third party support on that platform, and it didn't make sense because they sold a ton of Wiis. It was almost unprecedented, but now Switch is on a similar trajectory. I'm not saying that the Switch is going to end up being more popular than the Wii. I wouldn't dare say that, but it's doing pretty well. Smash Brothers, we have a new Super Mario Brothers game coming early in the year. Nintendo is holding their own as far as releases go. They have a lot to show and release next year. So I'm not worried about games on Switch. There's always going to be something there to play. Animal Crossing, Metroid somewhere in the future, Bayonetta somewhere in the future, a new Pokemon game, a ton to play. But third party is so important, and Nintendo hasn't had the best relationship with them because of the Wii U, and it's clearly getting better. A game like Dark Souls, games like Mortal Kombat 11, like coming day and date, that would have never happened on the Wii U, but it's happening on Nintendo Switch now, and that is something we can be hopeful for. But if it doesn't happen this coming year in 2019, I think we might need to let that go. The day and date for everything that we want, Zach and I really want that. If it's not happening in this third year, yeah, we might need to let that go and then just be okay with what Nintendo is doing, which is, hey, we get some big third-party releases, even some of these older ports. I'm very excited to play Resident Evil 4 on Nintendo Switch. Like, honestly, I've played that game a bunch. I love that game to death, and I'm going to play it on Switch because I think it's a really fun game, and playing it in bed is enticing to me, or playing it while I wait at the doctor's is enticing to me. So I have no problem with some ports. Final Fantasy is another series in general that I love, and seeing some of those games come over, including Final Fantasy 12, the Zodiac Age, that is going to be coming over, and I want to play that because I didn't get to play the original re-release that just happened not too long ago. So I'm excited for all of this. Let's just see more. So 2019, new year, hopefully new Switch. We don't need a new Switch. We're gonna get a new Switch. That's not what it's saying. Hopefully third party really comes out strong in the new year. We have something really fun with Tales of Vesperia Definitive Edition coming early, and then let's keep the momentum going, keep with these third party releases, and let's see what 2019 has in store. Let me know what games that are third party that you want to see on Nintendo Switch. For me personally, Assassin's Creed, Madden, Call of Duty, those things I think would be absolutely phenomenal for the Switch? Sound off in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up, maybe even subscribe if you enjoyed the video in any way. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our videos. And that is pretty much it. Thank you guys for your support. Have an awesome New Year's, a safe New Year's, I'll add. And that is pretty much going to be it for us here today. We appreciate each and every one of you. Twitter link is in the description, and we will catch you on the next one. SwitchForce out.